Hello and welcome to today's Socratic seminar. Today we'll be talking about if reality TV is good and if it is beneficial for people to watch it. I am Tyson Williams and I'm a part of Argument 01.
And I'm Justin Wilkins. I'm Tyson's group member. And just a little bit of context to this, we are both TVR majors in the Park School. So we do have an understanding of kind of like the nature behind production and television as a whole. But this is just coming more from our own personal perspectives and putting anything that we learned aside. So just to kind of restate our thesis here, I'm here to make the argument that reality TV isn't good.
Yes, and I am here to oppose that opinion that Justin has and hopefully persuade him otherwise that it is good and it is somewhat beneficial for people to watch. And most of my thesis comes from my own personal experience. Just to give a little background, I've been watching reality TV probably since I was even young enough to remember. Like I was at least 10 years old when I started watching Jersey Shore, and pretty much most of the popular shows around that time, I feel like reality TV was a really big deal around that 2000 to 2015 era.
Yeah, especially early 2000s. With Survivor coming out and just all the slew of shows that came out after that.
Yep. Just to name some of my favorites for basis, I'd say Survivor is definitely top 5. I also like obviously Jersey Shore a lot, but there's other ones that are a little bit more game style related, like The Challenge, Are You the One? What else? Anything else? Maybe shows like Chopped and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd also say those are reality shows as well. So,
just for my basis, I've never been too fond of reality TV shows. I just never really found them to be that interesting. I'm more of a story-driven person, so if I can see something finish to end that's fiction, it's usually something that I do enjoy, or even nonfiction to a degree in sort of a documentary style. But some of the shows that I like to watch is Simpsons, Breaking Bad, One Piece, Dexter, just some of the cult classics that are on TV right now. But before we actually get into the debate, I think it'd be good if we did set some ground rules here. So, Tyson, what do you believe to be reality TV?
I would say reality TV is any show that has a sort of, most reality TV shows have kind of a little bit of a script to them, and they all kind of have a certain setup to what they want the subjects in the show to do. So I'd say any show that has people who are real life, they're not actors, any show that involves any real life patrons or people that are just on the show, and most of it's about their real life, but there's also a flip side to that where there's shows where there's people who are actors, but they're at least somewhat interacting with real life people. So I think anywhere along those lines would constitute as a reality TV show.
So almost anything that's not really kind of fiction based, even non-fiction to a degree, documentary style, it's more of just people coming together to either accomplish a certain goal or just getting an inside preview of some extraordinary person.
Yep.
For me, what I believe reality TV to be, I wouldn't really necessarily consider shows like Chopped, Dancing with the Stars, American Idol to be reality TV because they're competition based. And when you do competition type shows, as we've learned in Park, they're very structured to a T. You have to get a certain amount of things done in a certain amount of time. So I feel you don't really get to know the talent as well. You get to know them to a certain degree. But with reality TV, The Bachelor, even though that is competition-based and shows like Survivor, they're still following around these people and they're with them for extended periods of time and kind of examining the personal relationships that they do come up with. So I'd consider basically anything that's not competition-based to be reality TV, in terms of those types of shows. And
sorry.
Tyson, what's your stance? What are you going to do to tear me down here?
Well, what I would say, just to kind of interject and disagree with you here, is I would say that anything, even regardless if it's not about particularly the people or the subjects like lives in general. I'd say it's still reality TV just because of the fact that they're real people, and it's not necessarily scripted because you feel more like related to like the person just based on the fact that they're not like acting for like a specific, like it's literally like people like off the street or just like in everyday life. So I think that is what mostly makes it reality TV. I think that you can have a script as long as it's not, people making up parts of their lives for television. Like, as long as they're being, thorough and truthful with their backgrounds and the things they do in everyday life, I think that it should be under the umbrella of reality TV.
So what I'm kind of gathering here is one of the reasons that you do like reality TV, and it's kind of on like your top 5 list as much as it is because it shows these real life people, and you're able to actually like get a peek into their lives. And usually the people that they do have on are just weird. Like, they're weird as hell sometimes, but that's entertaining.
Yeah,
so I can see it like why that is popular to a degree.
Yeah, it's just like when you're watching a movie, like you can how people can become like obsessed with a character and like relate it so much to themselves, but in reality it's a character. And when you see people on TV and their real emotions, and I think that's another big piece of it is like a lot of reality TV is like emotionally moving, and it really like makes you feel like, oh, like there's somebody else like in the real world, like a real person that feels this way or whatever, or like something that you can relate to. And I think that's one of the things that draws a lot of these audiences to these reality TV shows is the fact that it's like so emotion based for a lot of them. And I think that's one of the driving forces behind reality TV's appeal. And I could even say personally that I love watching shows where people are getting down to like the nitty gritty of how they feel and stuff, and it's interesting to see people progress through these shows and show their emotion and things like that.
Do you feel like some of that realness though isn't like exactly real? I know that's kind of like, I repeated 2 words there, but like one of the main criticisms that a lot of people generally say about reality TV shows is that it's not realistic. Like, how do these people get themselves into these situations? How much do the producers interfere to a degree? Because at the end of the day, they are cutting shots together to build a certain narrative. So it's almost like, for me, I guess, you're more following the producer's narrative, the editor's narrative, rather than the full narrative of what happened in the show. Because they only show you like a certain piece of like what's actually happening. And one of the reasons for me why I don't really like reality TV that much is, while I can see it as real to a certain degree, I understand how much of it is actually scripted just from being in school here and knowing that and that realness kind of turns me away to a degree, because most of the people that are on the show, like, I'm kind of looking at them and I'm like, man, like, who the hell is this? Like, these people are wax.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with most of what you're saying, because there's also a flip side to reality TV that's kind of like a little segue into your argument that I would even have to kind of roll over and agree with. It's just like, they do have scripts and stuff, and they do set up, the shots and everything like that. Like, it's all put together very well. It's not just throw a bunch of people into a show and see what happens. It's pretty scripted, but with that being said, I just feel like it's a perfect kind of mix between script and emotional reaction. Like, people, they get the right people for these shows. So, like, they put it together so that they know the people that they're getting are going to be entertaining people to watch. So I think that that's one of the, best parts of reality TV is the fact that, yes, it is scripted, and yes, they are putting together a storyline, but they don't have necessarily complete control over what these people do or say on the show. So they do, in a sense, because they can edit or take out what they don't want, but a lot of it is natural reaction and natural drama and emotion. So I just think that it's a two-sided coin, and if you do choose to watch reality TV, that's just something you have to know. And another piece of that is just kind of like what you were saying. Like, I'm also a TVR student, so I know the aspects of how shows are made and what they're doing to keep us intrigued. But I still feel like, it's, like I said, double-edged sword. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you made an interesting point with the people aspect, because like they do go out and like purposefully like look for like, oh, this person's big and muscular and he's kind of a douche, but he's also like a doctor. So you can kind of like see the layered like complexity of like just different people being on the show, saying like, oh, I wonder what that guy would do to like this one woman who's like just a vet, but she's like just crazy. So it's like they're just pairing up kind of the weirdest combinations to know that something will kind of implode on itself, but that implosion is what obviously gets views and entertains people. But this kind of brings me to, I found this argument piece on the New York Times where they're kind of just examining, are reality TV shows worse than other TV? And there was 5 contributions to the piece. Most of them are actually kind of supporting your statements, but there was one outlier in that, and that was from Jennifer Ponzer. She's the executive director of Women in Media News and a speaker for media literacy and the author of Reality Bites. And in this piece that she wrote, she talked about how a lot of people get typecast into certain roles and how they kind of need to fill certain roles on these shows. And some of these roles may be damaging to people because it might not be who they actually are. But when the narrative is built, that's how they become kind of like typecast, by making them seem a certain way on the show. And just an example of some of these people, and this is primarily directed towards the woman stereotypes that are present in these shows. There's the slut, whose sexual agency is like what we're meant to condemn and be like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what are they doing? The catty backstabber, woman who can't be trusted. There's the weepy whale, a desperately competing over female that kind of prioritizes beautiness and like infatuation over like some of the other contestants. There's the angry black woman, and then there's the gold digger, and then there's the dumb bimbo. So kind of like a lot of these people are typecast in these certain roles. And even in 2021, like I remember we were watching the show like Are You the One a few weeks ago, and like I could just kind of pick up on like, oh, like this person was typecast into being this person was typecast into being that person. But you also got to think about like, are these people that way in real life? So for me, it's like the typecasting of people is what kind of turns me away from that.
Yeah, I think just to like brush off on that, it's like I honestly wholeheartedly get what you're saying, and that is, that's like 100% factual. Like they do definitely search for specific types of people to typecast them, but it's just like in reality, like there are people like that, and I think it's weird that, or not even weird, I'd say interesting that they do play on stereotypes a lot with reality TV, but it's just interesting how people like to see that. Like it's just what people want to see. They kind of want to see people in these stereotyped roles, and I think that is something that should change towards the future. Like it should be more just I kind of just want to say I want reality TV to be like a little bit more real, but I think over time they will probably do just a little bit of a better job. And just to kind of ping pong off of that into a little bit of another topic, I picked up another piece for my argument with a website called thetalko.com, and it's just basically a reality TV article that I found, and it gave me a lot of good points, but one of them that I wanted to brush off on was that reality TV shows, they're so popular because of the fact that they follow trends, and a lot of the time you'll see the most popular shows will have like a celebrity like appearance or like something like that. And I think it just goes to show that reality TV is like such a big deal that people literally will go on shows just to boost their popularity, like artists, actors, all types of people. And I just think it goes to show that, it's one of those things that just isn't going to go away, and people are going to continue to watch. So they're going to be interesting to see the progression of reality TV over time. And I honestly believe that, I mean, I'm very biased, but I still think that it'll be just as big by the time we're 28, 30, whatever.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with kind of what you're saying there about how it's going to be big. Because even still, not to kind of sidetrack from your argument here, but I got a source from Variety.com, and Variety rated and like listed the most watched shows and what they believe to be like the best shows that are on TV right now, just from like a Nielsen consensus. Nielsen is like they're the statistic guys in the TVR department. They have all the ratings and just everything, all the knowledge at hand. So this is pretty trustworthy information. And it kind of shocked me that out of the top 100 like most or top rated shows in the US, 12 of those were reality TV shows. So that's like 1/10 of the list.
Yep.
And I also thought it was funny that 12 shows were also in like the most, or 12 reality shows were in the top most watched shows of the year as well. So it's like they have a spot in both of those lists, and it's definitely an important part of American culture. So I definitely agree with you that it is going to be here for a long time, and if anything, it's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
But how do you think we can make it so people aren't like as objectified in these shows and like typecast to a certain degree going forward? Because we're going to be the ones, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be doing it, but people in our school, like, we're going to be the ones that are actually making this content later on in our lives. Like, we will have a role in it, and we do have a responsibility as creators to be honest and like try and tell a compelling story. But at the same time, ratings get money, and money is what kind of fuels our industry. So how do you think we could kind of segue from the bad typecasting that goes on?
I think that at the end of the day, it's going to come down just to authenticity and, moving forward, which directors or producers are going to, kind of band together and try and make things a little bit more authentic. I mean, I think the earlier the shows were, like, time-wise, I think they were a little bit more authentic because it was kind of the start of reality TV. So the start of it was probably the most real it would ever get, just because of the fact that there wasn't much experience starting out with it, and it was something kind of new. But I think moving forward, just kind of like I said, producers are going to have to be a little bit more authentic with who they choose on the show and just kind of the road they want to go down. I mean, if you want it to be more interesting, you're probably going to have a little bit more scripting just because it's more formatted. But in terms of authenticity, I think just moving forward, choosing the right people and trying to choose the right, segues of where they want to go in the show. But while we're on the topic of statistics, I wanted to bring up a pretty interesting statistic I found on jobmonkey.com, and Annette Hill highlighted that in 2000, Survivor aired to 27 million viewers. And since that time period, shows such as Joe Millionaire, Survivor 2, and American Idol consistently beat out popular shows in the same time slot, including shows like Friends and, network favorite scripted shows like CSI. So I just thought that was really interesting. It's kind of brushing upon what you said, like out of the top 100 shows or whatever, I think it was 20 shows or something like that, the 12 of them were reality. And I just think that it goes to show that reality TV, like you said earlier, is just something that's never going to go away because people are just so drawn to this, concept and idea that someone else in the world is exactly like them or going through something they're going through. So I just feel like, it's one of those things.
And just kind of responding to your point there, the authenticity, I think authenticity in reality TV draws like a really fine line, or it doesn't really draw a fine line. It's kind of loose, because I feel like, you have shows that are like Survivor, where people obviously like they're there to play the game, they're not being authentic with each other. You don't really see, I mean, like you kind of do get to see the person's authentic true self. Like you get to see like, oh, this person's backstabbing this person, like what does it say about them?
But it's more so what they show you than what you get to see.
But then like on the other side there's shows like Jersey Shore where these people are so authentic to the core in like their just like traditions of clubbing, Italian food, just like every kind of like shitstorm that they pile together. Those people are like so authentic to the core that us as viewers are entertained by them. But to me, it almost feels like performative, kind of like you're at the zoo and you're just like looking at some animals, like behind the gate. It's like, oh, like look at these people.
Yeah.
But I get like that's what draws people in. And there's even a article that I found written on howstuffworks.com. This is just a personal piece. The author, John Peratino, said, even in his opening statement, for many, reality television is the lowest form of entertainment and an insult to our collective intelligence. In their view, reality TV lauds crass behavior and creates a voyeuristic peep show. It glorifies, abuses, elevates shallow personalities, and promotes dysfunctional relationships. What could you kind of say is like a counter argument to that? Because I feel like that definitely is one of the biggest arguments, and that's something that I do feel as a consumer that makes me not really enjoy this programming.
I honestly would say, I mean, I probably wouldn't say it to the guy's face, but I feel like that's a pretty pessimistic view on all of reality TV, because as much as people love to see, you know, the bad stuff and the fights and the screaming matches and people being belligerent, there's also a lot of people that love to see the good things and people building great relationships and people finding, I mean, just like shows like Are You the One, like people love to see people like fall in love and stuff like that. So I feel like there's plenty of positives that can come out of reality TV, and it just ties back into the emotional aspect that I spoke on earlier. It's like there's so many bad moments in reality TV that are crazy, and you know, it usually is like the parts of the show that get you, like your heart pumping, but just as many times as you can see terrible stuff on reality TV, you can also see very like optimistic things and people going through hard times but getting through it, people finding a significant other. There's tons of shows that are about, you know, positive things, and there's plenty of shows that are also built on authenticity and, you know.
You know, like, well, obviously this whole podcast has been kind of centered around our argument and, like, our opposing viewpoints. I don't know if it's too late to admit this, but there is, like, at least one reality TV show that I do really, really love. Like, I'm not even going to lie here.
What is it, J-Man?
I am just, I wouldn't say obsessed, but I have a deep appreciation for the show Chopped. I feel like, just to kind of see your side here, like I agree with the points that you're making, because in this show, there are real people that are telling their stories through cooking, and they're explaining their life story to us. And you know, with that cash prize that usually comes with, like, oh, what are you going to do with the money? And a majority of these people, in like the food service industry, they are underpaid. So these people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to like get this for my daughter. I'm going to go on a vacation with this person. I'm going to do that. And I do like seeing that as a viewer, because I get to kind of see like, oh, where did this person come from? How does their location influence their cooking style? How does their nationality influence their cooking style? So I kind of see what you're getting at with these points.
Yep.
Because like I do genuinely enjoy watching that, and also just kind of like the like what the fuck aspect of Chopped too, because like they'll give you a basket with like snails, a brick, 2 pounds of chocolate, and like a croissant, and like these people make like full on like Michelin star dishes from that, and I do enjoy that competitive aspect. But I think what I do enjoy about that show is kind of the realness. So I could kind of agree with you when it comes to more competition-based shows. I do enjoy watching them because I feel as though that they are real, but I do kind of recognize what I said earlier, how they are like structured to a point, and like it's all in the editing.
I think before we end here, I think a great example of a show that is very similar to Chopped and has that authenticity, and most of the time, or I'd say 90% of the show is mostly positive. The show I'm talking about is Shark Tank.
Yeah.
A show like that, it's all about the people. It's all about their life story and their business plan and what they want to do. And they come to these sharks with great ideas, and it's a prime example of the optimism of reality TV and how people can be inspired and they can create new things. They can start a whole new life essentially in front of millions of viewers' eyes, and it's completely authentic. Like, Shark Tank is one of the best shows I've ever seen. I mean, I used to watch it growing up. My parents would always have it on. And, through that, I could see that, maybe all reality TV isn't bad. And I feel like that was one of the shows that completely changed my opinion on it, because all I had ever seen up until that point is, kind of the trashier side, like the Jersey Shores and the Challenge and things like that. So I feel like it's one of those things that's extremely versatile and has a lot of different aspects to it. And I definitely wanted to say that before the end, that Shark Tank is one of the best shows.
Yeah. And, just like before we end here, has your stance kind of been changed at all? Or are you kind of open to new ideas, as like to what I said after like this conversation?
I feel
it's
like
okay if you say no.
No, I just I feel like looking back over the entirety of the conversation, I would definitely say that I had been opened up to just like a little bit, of a different side of reality TV. I mean, I feel like I was pretty aware of all the negative aspects and what was wrong with it, but I feel like after today, I definitely gained like definitely a different appreciation for what goes into it and how much of it really is scripted that I wasn't really aware of before.
Yeah. And I would just say, I would say my view's been kind of shifted to a degree. While I still may not hold the same, appreciation for some of these reality TV shows, I can still find the good in them, like Chopped and, the Shark Tank. But it's just more or less kind of how is it going to be moving forward? That's what I'm kind of thinking about.
Yeah.
Because we will be in the position to potentially make these shows, so that's something that is always on my mind. So I would say I am a little bit more open to the idea of reality TV, and maybe I'll give it a second chance. But I mean, if you guys are watching it in the house, obviously, I'm going to sit down and, watch. Maybe I'll make a few sly comments, what are you guys watching? Just to give you guys a little bit of shit, but I know I'll probably end up sitting down and, watching the rest of the season with you guys, just because it's something that we can, bond over and watch.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say my opinion's been shifted a little bit.
I think basically what you're saying is one of the big points for me is that my family personally, that was one of the things that we would always get together and do. So obviously I'm super biased because growing up, we did a lot together as a family, but I feel like one of our best moments would be all right, we all knew, we're going to order this pizza, turn on Survivor, and we would always bond over that. So I just feel like it's one of those things, even just here at the house, everybody can put it on, we can all relate, and it's always a good laugh no matter what. So it's one of those things that just brings people together. So I feel like that, and this is just another huge point for me on why reality TV is so good.
Yeah. So I guess that concludes our conversation then. We've covered a wide range of topics here. Definitely say my view has been shifted a little bit.
Yep.
But thank you for listening, Priya. We hope you enjoy and give us an A. I mean, that one's up to you, but we'll see how it is after the submission.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good break.
You too.